Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for the Making Progress channel. Today's video number 55 is the fundamental difference between a job and a career. Yeah, see? You want to become a career man, see? Yeah. 20s guy impression is useless without the 20s bird, see? Agreeing. Because the man is like, yeah. And she's like, yeah. I don't even know where I'm going with that. Oh, yeah, that's right. If you're a career man, you get to say, merci. For real, though, all careers are jobs, technically. But not all jobs are careers. Careers give you much more of at least four things than just jobs. And don't worry, I'll define them in just a second. They give you deep levels of satisfaction, deep levels of meaning, deep insights on the direction of your future life, and that machine money, because typically career people make substantially more than people just working jobs. Now, especially for younger people, jobs are great. You can and should do a bunch of them to learn a ton and see what you like and don't like. People who are like, I want to be a lawyer when they're 16, and then when they're 28, they're like, I'm a lawyer. I'm like, holy fuck, you had it all figured out, I guess. Like, I actually hate being a lawyer and I'm miserable every fucking day. And you're like, oh, okay, makes sense. So being a career person a little soon is sometimes kind of wacky. So jobs are great and having a bunch of them is super awesome. But in the long term, career is probably what you might be most interested in. Which brings us to the question of what is the fundamental difference between a job and a career. And I'd say it's something like this. At any given moment, you do both jobs and careers as well as you can. But here's the big difference. With a career, you put in a lot of effort into long-term improvement at your ability to do the career, to do the job, because all careers are jobs. So the difference between a job and a career is that while at the time that you do them, you do both as well as you can, which is good practice. With a career, you put a lot of effort into improving your abilities at work over the long term. Now, the long term can mean pretty long term or very long term. And the more long term it is, the more career-ish that job happens to be. So for example, you can just only improve on the job. Like, you can have a career in construction. You begin construction by volunteering to work in construction. They give you money. They teach you how to do shit on the job. After 10 years, you're a foreman. After 20 years, you're in the, decision room with how construction management is even going to execute itself. You just learn on the job, but goddamn, on-the-job learning is probably the best way to learn overall. But it can go even further. Here's where it becomes more career-like. Training and attempts at improving at your job can include months or years of training before work even starts. For example, shipbuilding, welding, almost all, if not all, skilled trades, carpentry, etc. You don't just start doing them. You have an apprenticeship of some sort where you're taught how to do them. As a matter of fact, this was true a little while ago. It's probably even more true today. If you want to work in ship welding and you're interested in moving to the south or east coast of the United States, they will pay you like $50 or $75 an hour to train you how to be a ship welder. You ain't even doing shit, and they're paying you to do it. Guys, college trains you for stuff. You don't get paid to go to college. How the hell does that work? Well, it turns out the companies that hire you to weld ships need workers so goddamn bad. And we're all so spoiled in our futuristic lifestyles that very few of us are like, yeah, 30 mile an hour, cold, rainy winds. And I have a fucking, oxyacetylene torch. And I'm just like on a fucking rappel halfway down an aircraft carrier, doing that, checking the fucking weld. This just doesn't check a lot of people's boxes. But that is a career, because they don't just let you go work on ships right away. You get tons of training, weeks and months, and sometimes even longer. And of course, one of the ultimate expressions of what really a career is when it can include up to years, plural, of schooling, sometimes a decade-ish, to even prepare to start a job. For example, law. Typical law schools are several years in duration, but remember, very few law schools will accept you without an undergraduate degree. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8 years, depending on if you do a clerkship or not, until you really get to go and do meaningful career-like work. Holy crap, is that an investment? Medicine. My wife is a medical doctor. She did undergrad. She did 2 years of post-bac because she did undergrad and then she was doing a PhD in chemistry. She decided that wasn't up her alley, so she had to switch, and because she didn't have enough pre-med curricula, she went and did a post-bac program, which I think was 2 years. And then she did her med school, which was 4 years, but I think her med school took it was 3 or 4, but hers took 1 year longer because she did like an extra why the fuck not fellowship inside. Then she did 3 years of residency and then 1 year of post-residency fellowship in sports medicine. I didn't even ran out of how many numbers that is. It's like 12 years of fucking school to start being a for real doctor. Crazy. That's a career, right? And sometimes this effort in training yourself up, improving yourself to be super, super good at your job and better all the time can seem daunting. I mean, it is. When someone tells you, like, hey, you want to be a doctor, son? And you're like, well, gee whiz, mister, sure, I would love to help people and medicines and prescribe, one Xanax tab for the patient, one Xanny for me. Oh, boy. 50s kid would never say that. That's ridiculous. Half a tab at most. Just take the edge off, The idea after saying, oh, gee whiz, I want to be a doctor, but like, all right, well, it's 10 years of school. Like, 10 years? What? To get to be a doctor like halfway through? Like, no, not even. And you don't get a title for a real long time. You're like, oh my God, what the hell? So it can really seem daunting if someone's like, yeah, like you want to do shipbuilding, you got 2 years of just like drudge work and learning. You're like, man, fuck shipbuilding, I'm out. It can absolutely seem daunting. And sometimes it can seem to not even be helpful proximately to the task that you have in hand. Early in your schooling for a profession, you're going to have a lot of like, why the hell am I learning this type of moments? And some of them are like, yeah, maybe the curriculum sucks, but some of them accede to a reality that learning deep basics before you do anything applied is a big deal. A lot of the ways in which, let's say you want to be an engineer. Well, you can't be an engineer until you learn math and science at a very deep level. But if you're an engineer and you have to know like 5% of all of chemistry to be a good engineer in whatever subsection of engineering you want to be an engineer in, you have to learn like 100% of chemistry. So, you may never interact with quantum phenomena ever at your job, but you're going to have to know quantum mechanics to some extent because it's covered in basic chem. And you're like, why the hell am I doing this? But that deep fundamental teaches you about the structure of the world, about the nature of reality. And all of reality is interconnected and has a ton of commonalities running through it. So it is a very good thing to be getting a super deep basic education, but it can absolutely seem to, and not actually proximately make you any better at engineering while you're sitting in chemistry class taking notes. You're not ready to learn engineering yet. That shit you learn later once you know chemistry, physics, calculus, the whole thing. So it really can be an uphill journey. And sometimes the quest for a career can seem all-consuming. Like, at what point does improvement turn into obsession? For many people, they get super obsessed with it. Do you think about work when you're at home? Do you physically bring work with you to do at home? Do you get competitive with others? Careers are a motherfucker, man. You got law school situation where the top whatever percent of graduates at any given law school get like the jobs they want, so to speak. And everyone else, as you tier down in the percentages, gets incrementally fewer and fewer of the best initial opportunities. The good thing is that it basically doesn't matter. One of the grand illusions is that your first job is important to the rest of your success. It's not. When we factor out your general intelligence and your overall schooling, People who didn't even go to great schools end up, when they're equated for general abilities, like what their GPA was in their high school, they tend to reach roughly the same levels of career success 10 and 20 years down the line. So you got someone who goes to Harvard Law and scores top 10 in their class, and you have someone who goes to like some small liberal arts school and goes to a smaller law school, score top 10 in their class. Like, who knows where they would have aligned in their own respective situations, but the Harvard person definitely gets a better job straight up 9 times out of 10, because having Harvard on your resume is a motherfucker. Most people are like, yeah, hell yeah, get in here. But having a small liberal arts college on your resume doesn't matter all that much. People are like, yeah, I don't know what this is. I heard, whatever school was fine, but anyway, you're not ready for the big law firms yet, which will hire interns right out of Harvard. But if you go to a small law firm, you're a stud because you're actually awesome. You go to a medium-sized law firm a few years later, and then that person who got into Harvard got into law profession right out of Harvard, maybe they were okay, and they're sort of somewhere in the middle tier of their law company that they work for, their law firm. And then, 7 years later, you might have gone to the same high school. You're being interviewed for their same level of position because you just went about it in a different track, and then you get the job and you're like, hey, what's up? Didn't we high school? Yeah, that's right. Oh, holy shit. Where'd you go to school? Like, man, Harvard. And you're like, oh my word. Yeah. You're going to be rich. You have to pull your white gloved palm away from the despicable pores. Oh, heavens. So you tell them that, and they're like, they look down on you, but then it turns out it doesn't fucking matter. But that idea of competition with others, that idea of rank matters, that idea of your first job really matters. It can weigh on you really heavily, and that's one hell of a cost for career. A lot of the people that are career-minded and good at their careers, they paid a lot of these costs, and some people, these costs are not up their alley. And that's not a value judgment. That's totally cool. Fuck a career. But if you want a career, you got to know it's going to be some tough times. Not all tough times, and in the end, it's all really, really awesome, but it's a difficult situation. In the end, a good effort at constant improvement pays off like you would not believe in your creating a career and how good you are at your career. It pays off in money. It pays off in prestige if you're into that sort of thing. It pays off deeply in satisfaction, in meaning, and in the directionality of, I know what I'm doing with my life, and I feel privileged to be here. That's a big deal. Going to work every day, doing work every day that you find mega fulfilling, mega satisfying, having a super deep meaning, and giving you a directionality for sort of the rest of your life, or at least, next several years, man, that's more than a lot of people can say for themselves. And that's why jobs and careers are not the same. Careers come with a lot more stuff. So if you want to be a career man, see, I have a couple of best bets that I would like to communicate to you, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them with some subsections that will be my little success guide to you guys about how to become a very good career person. First, don't ever sweat the competition, ever. You have only one job. It's to do your best at every single juncture along the way. Your best. It doesn't matter what Billy is doing. It doesn't matter what Sally's doing. Some successful people are clock watchers and they're competition watchers. So I can't wholeheartedly tell you that the successful generally don't care about their competition, because that's not true. But like a huge fraction of them don't. So it is very true to say that caring about your competition and what they're doing is just absolutely not mandatory at all for success. And while some people get a kick out of it, most people do it just out of habit and out of instinct, and they never really thought it through. Most people will just become better at everything they do psychosocially and at their job if they just ditch the whole idea of competition in their brain altogether. Because here's what competition is. You're not competing, ever. You're just doing what you do. The competition is other people who appraise your work and the work of others see, or the customer sees. You build, one company that makes fruit juice this way, another competitor makes fruit juice that way. The competition is when a consumer drinks one gulp of your juice and one gulp of the others. That's the competition. When you're making your best fruit juice in the laboratory, that's where they make fruit juice, I'm inclined to believe, you have no idea what the other people are doing. You don't even know if they exist. A big fraction of your competitors in business, they're like still in high school or some shit, or like they just failed out of Harvard. What the fuck do I do now? Well, I have a passion for this, and they go into it and they crush everyone. You don't even know who they are. The megalith companies you think you're competing against could lose a ton of market share and fucking dive into nowhere by the time your company comes up, or by the time you and your division, you're doing really great things. So sweating, because a lot of people think career, that means like rank. Law school, what's my rank? Medicine, what's my rank? Engineering, what's my rank? It matters in the sense that it'll predict your success. It'll make your ride to success easier if you score higher. But remember, your job is to just score higher. It just does not matter who else shows up. You can only ever do your best. And to put a fine point on it, the more time and effort and worry you spend thinking about what the fuck other people are doing, by the way, you can't do anything about it. They're going to score on the test however well they score. If you think about, oh man, am I going to beat Tracy on this midterm exam? Tracy doesn't fucking telepathically get your thoughts. It doesn't fuck her up. If it did, that'd be highly immoral. Any amount of time you spend on thinking about other people, what the fuck they're doing, is wasted, terribly wasted time. You could be doing what? Focusing on number one, focusing on your craft. So point number one, don't sweat the competition ever. Point number two, like if you like to be competitive and sweat the competition, go for it. You don't have my blessing because I think it's a giant fucking waste of time. But if that's how you vibe away. You have my full respect for that. Number two, right off the back of that, focus on the craft. Remember, that's what you do. There's a lot to focus on that's really super positive. You obviously, the literal focus on your craft of doing the thing is completely immersive. It's deep work. It's awesome. It's amazing. But there's other thing to appraise about your craft that can really get you really ingrained in that career and producing your best work consistently. For example, some of the things that I found helpful and valuable over the years, you can take time to think and appraise about the power you possess in being able to create great outputs. For example, for me, when I started to become an expert in the science of training for muscle growth, I had moments where I was like, whoa, like I know things. Like I really know stuff about a whole system. Like answering questions that people had at seminars when I started a seminar tour early in my career. They would ask a question, and I'd be like, I know exactly how to answer that. And as a matter of fact, later on, to paraphrase Jared Feather, I know how to ask that question better than you asked it and answer it better than you could have anticipated. It's Jared paraphrasing Christopher Hitchens and me paraphrasing Jared. But, like when you really feel your swag of like, whoa, holy shit, I know stuff. I mean, I can't imagine what medical doctors feel when they like sew up a kid's eye. I'm like, the fuck? I just did that? I saved a fucking kid's vision? I'm out here making fucking training apps no one gives a shit about. You're out there saving lives. It's a big deal. Another thing to meditate on and to really sort of let it flow through you and really kind of pump you up for your career journey is the beauty of the process of creation that you execute. Like I've been involved in making the RP Diet Coach app and the RP Hypertrophy app, developing pseudocode and logical mathematical structures and instructions for the software engineers to come back and sort of negotiate with me on and get that thing going. So the beauty of building out a system that is so well thought through and integrated, patting myself on the fucking back here, apologies, that you're like during making it and after you make it, you put the mouse down, you're reverent, you're like, oh my God, like I built this. I'm making something super, super awesome. And you haven't even finished building it. You're midway through. The beauty of that process of creation and construction, if you really experience a lot of that, don't take for granted that you're experiencing it. Meditate. It's going to pump up your excitement for your career like crazy. Nobody has to make you go to work. They make you not go to work. They pull you away from the computer or away from the notepad or whatever it is, however do you work. Another thing to focus on is to marvel at what end states you helped create. So it's not only the process of creating the thing. Imagine like, for the process of creating part, imagine someone who's designing an MRI machine. Oh my God, like you're making miracles happen with your own hands and brain. Unbelievable. But next is marveling at the end states you help create. So being a person who has some role in engineering to create MRI machines, going to a hospital and looking at a functioning MRI plugged in, blue light on, like, holy crap. I had a hand in making a thing that sees through people and can help save lives. What the fuck? Who gets to say shit like that? You don't get that shit at a fucking job. You get that shit at a fucking career. That's a big, big deal. And for me, in my own personal bullshit little world, you're like, oh my God, we have a working hypertrophy app. I trained through my own hypertrophy app that I helped to build, and it's making me jacked, and it knows all the answers, and it's all fluid and intelligent and adaptive. And I'm like, oh my God, how could I not be pumped for my career when I get to make shit this cool? I mean, imagine Elon Musk like test driving a Tesla Roadster for the first time. Like, oh, fuck. Big, big deal. And then another thing to meditate on to help sort of pump you up for your career, because it is a tough thing to be a career person, is to kind of bask in the sublimity, the kind of the ascended feeling of helping the customer that you're serving. I mean, if I was a grocery store manager, I would realize that like people walk into my store, they scan these beautiful, well-ordered aisles of properly lit, amazing food that's safe and clean and healthy. Well, healthy is depending on what you buy. Healthy in any one single dose, I'll say. And they get to have this wonderful experience shopping. And they get all the stuff they want. They have a great interaction with staff. Everything's seamless. And then out the door they go. They come in with nothing. And they leave with an amazing abundance of food from all over the world. Holy shit. Next time you see your grocery store manager, wink at him a little bit, maybe even a slap on the behind, sportsman-like. Being able to help real people is what almost every career that I can think of is about, right? Even careers that are kind of fucked up. If your job is to design satellite-guided bombs, yeah, you got some, sin eating to do in your head, justifying why you get money to do shit like that. But on the other hand, you get to think about, like U.S. Marines that are pinned down in a firefight. They're all going to fucking die. And what comes to save them? F-35 with a satellite-guided bomb right on the enemy. No more fight. And the Marines get exfilled out. You just saved 12 people with families, with children, with futures, with lives, 12 people serving their nation to protect freedom around the world. And yes, I do mean that. And no, I'm not being cynical. Bring it on in the comments. You're doing something when you're building that satellite-guided bomb that saves real humans. Yeah, it fucks some people up, but generally they're bad people. You guys can see all the earlier lectures I have about what I think about the military and shit. But the ability to help a customer, there's tons of people using our apps to get jacked and to get lean. It's so goddamn meaningful. If you're a doctor, forget about it. If you're a lawyer, go figure out how you help anyone. Isn't that right, Scott and Max? What do lawyers do that's good?
Read.
Just say read.
Yep.
I did a lot of reading today. I somehow helped someone. Well, no, lawyers are super helpful in tons of cases. Like, look, if we didn't have a lawyer at RP, we'd be up shit creek without a paddle. Lawyers can look back and be like, because I work for the company that I work for, I make sure to handle all these sort of legal, thorny environments and make sure that my company continues to produce value. So in a sense, if you're a really good lawyer, I mean, you're allowing for the process of wealth creation to occur as seamlessly as it can. Because if, you don't have a good lawyer on your hand, you're large, small, all the way up to large corporation, you're real deep shit really, really quick. So all of these wonderful, beautiful things of being able to focus on the craft are highly, highly recommended. So don't sweat the competition. Focus on the craft. Point number 3, manage fatigue. There is an emotional, cultural meme. Not in the literal sense of meme, like picture of someone's dick that you send your friends and it's supposed to be a normal file, but you click and it's that black dude with a huge dick. I have like 10 friends send me that every day. Every day I sit down 10 times and jerk off to that pic. What was I saying? Black dudes, big dicks. Are we getting kiboshed for this on the AdSense revenue? That last time you said it was actually the last. The next one gets us kiboshed. So people have this meme, and by meme I mean kind of idea in the culture that repeats itself over and over, that career people work, career people suffer, career people do sacrifice. there's there's a literal bullying culture in a bunch of careers, medicine for sure, law for sure, finance like crazy, where your first year or 2 or 3, they basically like you work like 80 hours a week, nobody gets any sleep, and the other doctor's like, well, I had to do it, so they're going to do it. It's totally stupid in a bunch of different ways. And in some other ways, it's kind of cool and very kind of valor inducing, but that's the stories you hear. The David Gogginses of this world are what you see in the training space. Fucking try, you pussy. Go, go, go. And that's what people associate with career person. So if you start to think of yourself as, I'm a career person, that means you got to work, 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 work. And very few people will tell you the reality is that, yes, work is a big part of it. But the yin and the yang is that managing your fatigue is a huge thing. You want to burn out of a career? You want to be shitty with a career? You want to have a career you hate but you're still doing? Definitely don't manage fatigue. Just work until you break. But if you want the best career possible, just like athletes who train with weights or train on the soccer field need rest in order to come back and do it better, it's the same thing with your job. So don't chronically overwork. I said chronically. Because there's a week here and there where, you got to finish that fucking last thing that you're working on for your company and the holidays are coming up and you got to grind. Everyone's got to grind. No big deal. That's some of the best times you can have at work is like those burning the midnight oil hours to get that big job finished. Super, super awesome. If you do that all the time, you're going to be in a bad way. You have to be able to unplug regularly. Generally, what I say is if you can allow for it, every evening, every weekend, and a few times a year on larger vacations. And when you're overdoing the work in these short work sprints, don't overdo it long enough so that you start to hate it, chronically hate it. It's okay to hate your work for a few hours here and there at the end of a few late Fridays. It's fine, like fucking stupid ass job. What the fuck did I get in this career? Blah, blah, blah. Finishing up the work. But then a couple days later and a couple of really nice long nights of sleep on the weekend and vegging out on the couch, you're like, man, yeah, I want to go back to work. I love that place. But if you're overworking so much that the dominant sensation is you being on the back foot, that the dominant emotion you have in regards to work is this pesky thing that never goes away, and you're just dog tired of it, you're not going to have a good time. And there are no careers in which that's the long term of the career. You would think that people in the special forces who crawl through blood and mud and bomb fragments and do crazy crap and barely sleep, you think they'd have the mentality of like suffering time. Nope. From what I understand, nearly or every single person in the special forces would rather be nowhere else than in that dog shit battlefield. That's where they want to be. And if you don't manage fatigue, you're just going to break into pieces and they just won't send you to combat anymore. The same thing applies to every other job by analogy. Managing fatigue is super important. Remember, a career's long haul. If you burn out in the first year of medical school, you ain't even have a career. If you burn out in your first year of medical residency, you're not going to have finished residency, and that limits your employment opportunities. If you burn out after the first year of fellowship, you're going to be reconsidering if you went into the right career altogether. You just finished a fellowship, you hate it, and someone's like, well, you're going to start in that career, and you're like, shit, I hate this thing. So definitely have restraint, manage fatigue, take care of yourself. It's the long haul that pays off. Don't overdo it. You can overdo it in sprints, but not chronically. And lastly, and this is another big one, and it's not so inspirational to hear, so you probably won't see a clip of this getting millions of views on all the CEO YouTubes. Here it is. Do not set psychotically high goals. I got a real fucking problem with this. It's a personal problem. It has nothing to do with you. All is well. And I'm mostly joking, but there's a grain of truth to this. I don't like when I hear people who have achieved great things say dream big. I don't like that at all. I fucking hate it, to be completely honest. Why? There's some kind of light between dream big and set psychotically high goals for yourself. But that pinhole of light is quite small to me. And I'm here to tell you that it's a bad idea in most cases to set psychotically high goals, that you're not even sure you can manage the prerequisites of achieving Never mind achieve. Is it okay to have dreams and hopes? I guess. I hate both, to be completely honest, because they have almost nothing to do with true success. How does true success happen? True success happens in getting better over time. And better over time always and everywhere occurs in small increments. Now, sometimes they can get quite exponential, and then they come back down, and then they go exponential, but every single little fragment is additive over time. And so the way you should probably construct your goal-setting framework for your career is to not set psychotically high goals, but to set comfortable, reasonable goals that you'll know you'll almost certainly achieve with time, no problem. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, in 6 months, I can do this. In 12 months, I would hate to find out I couldn't do this. Highly unlikely. You're being honest with yourself. You reach those goals by diligent effort. When you reach them, you must celebrate them. A lot of people have such crazy goals off in the ether that they want to ascend to eventually. They don't even count their blessings as they go. They don't smell the roses or whatever. They don't celebrate their small accomplishments on the way to the goal. That's a good way of burning out, because you'll look back in your mind at any one point in your career journey and be like, I've never really accomplished anything. And people are like, what are you, nuts? You accomplish things every day. You accomplish 10 award-winning, art and design pieces that you've put out over the last 10 years. Like, yeah, but I haven't been featured at the Guggenheim Museum in New York yet. I understand that when you were 7, you walked by the museum and it looked cool and you wanted your art displayed there. But dude, you got world-class awards, man. You work for a digital media company that pays you $500,000 of every half year of work that you do. Are you insane? If you never pat yourself on the back for the small goals you achieve along the way, you're just designing a situation of one of two things: burnout or misery. And I know there's kind of a valor when you see someone get some kind of accomplishment, but they're like, this means nothing. I have grander goals. That's cool for a Dragon Ball Z character, but they're not having a good time inside their head. Luckily, it's just Akira Toriyama drew art, so there's no one in there. There's no actual head. But if you're that person, you want to be like, man, it's only the top for me. It's failure unless I win it all. You're just dumb. There's just nothing else to tell you. It's the wrong way to think about it 99 times out of 100. And I know when they interview Olympic champions, a bunch of them don't say stuff like that. That's not the interviews you hear. You'll hear the ones that are super inspirational. I never gave up myself. I never, ever settled for second place. I never cared about the small wins. It was always the Olympics for me. That's dope. That's a very, very rare person. And even more rare than you would think, because that's the kind of person they put the camera and the microphone up to, because they're going to say some real memeable shit like that. Dream big, set super high goals for yourself, have very high expectations. I happen to think that's all nonsense. And egotistically, I have accomplished more than I ever thought I would. And it's just objectively just a lot, right? And so I do have a little bit of swag to push into this, and I could just be wrong and totally off my rocker. But my sense is set small, reasonable, attainable goals, celebrate them, really let them sink in and be like, dude, I'm doing well. I love this. Let's take the night off. Let's fuck it up. Let's come back to work tomorrow. And then set new goals that are also easy. A little bit more difficult than the last ones, because you already accomplished the last ones. You just raise the bar a little bit. Accomplish, celebrate, repeat. Accomplish, celebrate, repeat. You just keep doing that. You're going to become amazing. And someone's going to be like, what was it that really pushed you to be the best? What was it that really pushed you to get your career to this level? And you might honestly say yeah, I was just kind of trying to do better at every juncture, and it was a real good time. And here I am. Which is my story. I never thought I would be on YouTube and all these fucking views and all this money and apps and shit like that. I had no idea. But I was very proud to be a sports scientist. And I just tried to be a little better along the way. And now, ta-da, still ugly. I know, it's terrible. Anyway, if you're career-oriented, give some thought to this stuff. If you disagree, shoot something into the comments. If you agree, shoot something into the comments. And if anyone is a younger person and wants to get some advice about career and all this stuff, send them this video. But don't say anything. Just send them the video and be like, watch this whole thing and click on every ad. See you guys next time.